Hi, welcome. If this is your first time, or welcome back, I'm so happy to be together with you whenever and wherever you are tuning into this video. And so you're finding this, and it's a video in my 90-day challenge to speak my truth and to share my story. And so, if you have been working on this for yourself or exploring this or hoping for a sign, I hope you receive this and take a step in any direction to share your story or to share your expression in any way. If that is songwriting, if that is cooking, if that is baking, if that is knitting or crocheting, whatever way feels best to you. I hope you share your truth with your community or with the world in some shape or form. I do like to start these videos sharing a practice. And so this one is a forgiveness practice. I am still figuring out what forgiveness is. It's one of those tricky subjects, that and surrender slash trust faith. Um, but what I've been trying to do is when I'm in a moment that activates me, where I'm feeling dysregulated or upset, I'm trying to think three thoughts. One, I release you, this situation. I release you. One, two, I bless you. And three, I set myself free. And this practice came from the Louise Hay video that I've been watching uh, for the last couple of weeks and trying to watch every morning for 30 days. So if it resonates, feel free to try it, explore it, see what works. Maybe it happens after the situation ends. Maybe it happens after you see the person. Maybe you write it in your journal, um, or you yell it at the top of your lungs if you can. Um, just something. Again, I'm still figuring out what forgiveness is like. Um, but the words, the thoughts that we have, uh, when I say those words, something shifts and something lightens for me. So I just wanted to share it with you. I wanted to talk about thoughts and beliefs and affirmations. I had the joy and the honor to be in conversation with one of my Rise and Thrives earlier today. And it the experience emphasized what I've been learning around the mind, the power of the mind, mindset, and I wanted to speak specifically about it, even though I was flirting with talking about mediums and mediumship. But I'm feeling called to talk a little bit about this. So I'm going to move in this direction. So, a thought is some idea that forms in our mind, and any thought we think is affirming something. So if I have the thought, I'm warm, I'm affirming something in my experience, right? And so we go and we have lots of thoughts. Oh man, I had done a little bit of research, although it wasn't the most thorough research, but this idea that we can have tens of thousands of thoughts in a day, right? And so then what kinds of thoughts are we having? And then this idea that when you repeat a thought or you think a thought over and over and over again, right? So, repetition of thought is how Louise Hay describes it. And a thought you think over and over again is something that Abraham that Esther Hicks channels for Abraham's messages. But a thought we think over and over again, or that we repeat, becomes a belief. Okay, so you've got a thought, something that is affirming something in our environment or experience. And then if we think it, for a week, if we think it for a year, if we think it for decades, if we think it for our entire lives, it becomes a belief. Okay. And then what I've been hearing Louise Hay say is that beliefs create our reality, or they influence our experience, right? So if I'm invited to a holiday party and I believe that holiday parties are boring and I am believing that I'm going to have a miserable time when I get to the event, when I get to the party, I'm very likely to have that experience, right? Um, our brain uh, is designed to look for data and information that it knows historically, right? Confirmation bias. So it's going to look for these experiences that are aligned with what we believe. So this is why our thoughts are important. And this is why Louise Hay says, change your thoughts, you change your life, right? So I was speaking about how the video I watched talks about how money is energy and it takes the shape of consciousness, which is a part of our mind, right? So, consciousness is the part of our mind that we are aware of. Subconscious is a deeper level, and then unconscious is another level. So, I'm I just want to clarify it because before I came across the work of Abraham through Esther Hicks, I I thought beliefs were kind of like a badge of honor or like something that was permanent within me. And so, I was like, well, that person believes that, I believe that, so that's it. But once I started to hear, the idea that a belief is just thought that is repeated, I was like, oh, it's not actually that big of a deal. It's not that weighty. It doesn't have to be that weighty, right? And then one of the things that blew my mind when I was listening to a lot of Abraham through Esther Hicks was this idea that in order to grow, in order to learn, in order to evolve, we have to be willing and able to shed our beliefs. Because if we keep the same beliefs, things will always stay the same, right? If this idea of like you change your thoughts, you change your life, your beliefs that you have influence your experience and your reality, right? So I was like, okay, think about the work that I've done for ACE interface, right? Adverse childhood experiences. And in in that presentation, they simplify, let's just imagine that there are two different worlds. One is a benevolent world, and one is a fearful, dangerous world, right? And so I had lived most of my life feeling like danger was always lurking. So the fear led to anxiety of like, how do I do something about this fear, but feeling powerless and helpless. So I lived that way for a very long time. And as I was learning and coming across different frameworks and different practices and different modalities, it shifted my beliefs, whether I was aware of it or not. And so, this idea that if I continue to believe that the world is a dangerous place, I'm going to continue to find danger and or I'm going to continue to look for danger all the time, right? And having lived that way for 40 years, what did it get me? Um, Adult onset acne, um, a heart condition, uh, having difficulty relaxing my muscles, insomnia, difficulty sleeping, and all of those things disrupt my homeostasis. I mean, it's become sort of the new normal, right? But all of those things are impacting how I live, how long I live, the quality of life, right? And so, sorry, right around the time that I was starting to listen to Abraham through Esther Hicks, my BFF, was saying to me, you know, I've lived my life like angry and upset, um, and negative. And I was like, well, why not try to be positive? Why not try to be optimistic? At least you enjoy the ride. And if something happens and it's not that pleasant, like you've enjoyed everything up until that point, as opposed to like being on the lookout for danger or like, you know, if I was like Darkwing Duck, sorry, 90s child. Um, and so I, you know, all these things were coinciding and it became very apparent to me that beliefs and my work around beliefs was going to be instrumental to my growth and to feeling less stuck in my life, right? And so as I was learning, I was exploring, I was experimenting and I was trying to identify my beliefs. Okay? So mental habits, essentially these habits and these ideas that I've thought over and over again, you know, another way of explaining a belief. I would identify if I was having a belief that was limiting, that was sort of keeping me small. I would identify the belief. I would maybe ask some questions around it, but then ultimately I would try to replace that belief with something different, something moving in a different direction, something that's the opposite. And I just played around. So, for example, and I remember doing this with a hypnotherapy guided practice, but it was like, okay, like identify limiting belief. And I was like, oh, I believe that I am responsible for my mom's um, health. I'm responsible for keeping her alive, right? And this was a thought that I had after my father passed, and we're shifting roles, and I was finally accepting being her caregiver, her primary caregiver. And in this calm and relaxed state of hypnosis, I was like, oh, there is a part of me that believes that I need to keep my mom alive. And so in this, you know, this meditation was asking me to like explore like where did it come about, you know, like you know, what's the origin and other things I can't remember at the time. But then it asked me, okay, what's a different belief you can replace this with, right? And so um, it might have been, I believe that I can support my mom's well-being as opposed to I'm responsible for keeping her alive, right? And so that shift helped me to get some space, um, mental space, emotional space. The fear was not as strong. And, it is connected to a deeper belief that I'm responsible for other people, and that's something that I'm still working through. But it could also be, I might have had a belief that, what was I working on last year and this year? Like my beliefs around money. So I believed that I had to struggle in order to make money. I had seen my father work incredibly hard, in ways that wore and tore his body up, right? So I saw that, and even though it wasn't ever said aloud, I believed that I had to struggle and hurt myself and put myself through, um, pain and discomfort, uh, to make money. And so I tried to replace that with I believe that money can flow to me with ease, right? And so whenever I would feel activated or dysregulated, upset, sad, I would wonder when I was calm, um, is there a belief connected to this? What is the belief? What's at the root of that if I had the, chance? And then what can I replace it with? So that's been really helpful for me. I am continuing, to see the benefits of shifting my mindset, shifting my thoughts, shifting these habits of thoughts that I've had. And I really do resonate with the idea of like my mind as a field or my mind as a garden. Um, because I like the idea that it's also sort of this living entity and that there's the possibility of, um, growth and beauty, right? As opposed to, I'm sure my mental landscape before I entered the fourth floor was, spiky or like full of cobwebs and just like really run down. And I think it was really static too. And so I like the idea of how fertile a garden can be, especially if you're taking care of it or even of a field, right? So I just wanted to share that with you in case, this can be helpful for you. I mean, all of these videos have been that for me, as well as sharing, my experience and what's been helpful for me and sometimes what hasn't been helpful for me. I'm going to try to spend some time thinking about the resistance I've had around expressing emotions, needs, desires. Um, but I do want to just highlight, there's a video I listened to this morning that I need to re listen to see what really stood out for me. It was just like a whole bunch of like, come on, come on, come on. We've been telling you, come on. You've been struggling with this, pop out. Um, and then in the conversation that I had with one of my Rise and Thrives today, the lessons that she has learned, essentially like it's safe to desire and that you don't have to earn your desires. You don't have to get permission from other people. And I was just like, oh, like this is exactly what I'm working on. And it was very, it was very synchronistic that she shared that today after I listened to that video. And I'm going to re listen to that video soon and share with my other Rise and Thrive what stood out to me. Oh, I'm going to share that video. It just talks about how Neptune is stationing direct. Um, a whole lot of things, but essentially, Neptune is connected to the spiritual, to the dreamy, and then it retrograded into Pisces. But today it's stationed direct, and it's going to take 6 weeks to leave Pisces and then enter Aries for the next like 15 or 16 years, right? So it's going to be a pretty dramatic shift from Pisces to Aries. But even the idea that it's no longer retrograde, but it's direct, I think is having an impact on our truths. Oh, I was talking about this and the whole purpose of this series, right? This 90-day challenge. I think one of the things that stood out so much in that video was this idea of like my truths needing the space to breathe. And it was really interesting because I was sharing the whole like mental space, heart space, and energetic space with my BFF yesterday. And I feel the energetic space is within my rib cage. So I think it was actually really interesting that I was talking about respiration and, allowing like my truths to breathe. And I was like, oh, okay. This is getting pieced together. I love it. So thank you so much for joining me on this journey. I'm so excited. I get really excited when I have these realizations or these aha moments or connecting the dots. So thank you for witnessing and listening to me share my truth. I do hope that wherever you are, you feel like you have what you need to do what you want and need to do in this moment. I'm wishing you the best. I'm sending you a big hug, and I hope that there is ease or peace in your heart. And, you know, who knows what can happen if we shift some of the thoughts we have. I'm starting to see it. My Rise and Thrive earlier today in conversation is seeing it, and I am I'm open to new evidence and new data, and I hope there is space for you to be as well. Please take good care, and I'll talk to you next time. Okay, bye bye.